Okay, in activity 3, we're supposed to solve an application with systems. It says a train from Camarillo to San Diego costs $30 in coach and $47 for a business class ticket, I guess. On Tuesday, there were 42 passengers on the morning train, and Amtrak took 1,494 in fares. How many coach passengers took the morning train, and how many business class passengers? Okay, so let's recap our thoughts. There's coach tickets and business class tickets. We know that the total passengers were 142, and we are trying to find out how many of those 42. I know there's some dollar amounts that we're going to deal with and organize our thoughts, but one thing that stands out is that there were 42 passengers total, and we're interested in how many coach passengers and how many business class passengers there were. So these guys would give me the total passengers. Keep that in mind. So whatever variables we choose doesn't matter. What we are looking for is asked in the question. There are two pieces that they want us to find. So X, let's say we'll call it the number of coach passengers, and Y we will call the number of business passengers, because again those are the two things asked for, so I'm going to just call them X and Y because I have two unknowns. And then the table will help me organize my thoughts, so let's go follow through. It says the number of passengers for coach. Well, I didn't know that. I'm supposed to find that, but we did call it X, so I'm going to put an X there. Then it says the number of passengers for the business class. Again, I don't know that. I'm supposed to find that, but we do know that we called it Y. So I'm going to fill a Y there. Then it says price per ticket. Well, that's when the dollar amounts come into play. So price for each coach is 31 bucks. And price for each business class, a little bit higher, is 47 per ticket. Well, the total revenue pretty much means how much that train place brought in, because they sold 31 X tickets at 31 bucks per ticket. Also, they sold Y tickets at 74 bucks per ticket. So the total revenue is really the number times the per item price. Number times the per item price. 31X, 47Y. So basically each one is $31 and there's X of them, so I multiply it. Each one is $47 and there's Y of them, so I multiply it. Write an equation about the number of passengers. About the number of passengers. So I have to worry about the number of passengers. I do know that they told me the total number of the passengers was 47. Or 42, sorry. 42 total. I do know that. So if I have X of them being coach, Y of them being business class, an equation should be pretty straightforward about the number of passengers would be X plus Y is equal to 42. Then they say write an equation about the revenue. Well, similar idea. I do know that we brought in, or they brought in, 31X dollars from the coach part and 47Y bucks from the business part. And I also know that total, Amtrak took in $14.94. So $14.94 is the total for this guy, which means an equation follows naturally. First piece plus second piece gives me the total. So 31X plus 47Y is the total money they brought in. So this one had to do with the number of tickets. This one had to do with the revenue that they brought in. And there's my system, equation 1, equation 2. Now it says solve your system, so I can either isolate X or Y and plug it into the other equation. That would be the substitution method and perfectly fine. Or I could use the elimination method since the X's are aligned, the Y's are aligned, and the numbers are aligned. And I think I'll go ahead and do that. And if I want to do the elimination method, I want the same coefficient with opposite signs either for X's or for Y's. I think I'm going to go ahead and want a negative 31 in front of this x to cancel with this 31. So I'll multiply by a negative 31 all the way through. All three items have to get multiplied by a negative 31. And I'm not going to touch the second equation, so leave that guy the same. And we're going to end up with negative 31x minus 31y equals negative 31 times 42. Punch that in and we get negative 1302. Now I have them all ready to go and eliminate. These guys go away and I end up with a positive 16y, it looks like. And when I add these two guys, one's a negative, one's a positive, so their difference, and their difference is a positive number 192. Divide by 16 and we end up with y equals 12. Now I was supposed to answer two things. How many coach passengers and how many business class passengers. So I got one of them. I have to go get the other value for x as well. So I'm going to go back to the easier equation. X plus y equals 42. I'm going to plug this guy in, 12 for the y. And it looks like x is going to be 30. And then I'm going to answer the question the way they wanted me to answer, and I'm not going to leave it as an ordered pair because y pertained to something and x pertained to something. X is the number of coach passengers and y is the number of business class passengers. So we will actually go ahead and interpret that or state it out. So we'll say Amtrak had 30 coach passengers and 12 business class passengers. X represented number of coach passengers and y was business class. Once we found x and y, we went ahead and interpreted it, or said the final sentence that actually answers the question. Part 2 of the activity talks about the perimeter of a rectangular playground that's 197 yards. So I have a rectangular playground and the perimeter all the way around is 197 yards and its length is 5 yards less than twice the width. Find the dimensions of the playground. So dimensions means two things, the length and the width. Choose your variables. Since the length depends on the width, because it says length blah 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 blah, twice the width, length depends on the width, we'll call x to be the width of the playground. And then let's translate that piece, twice its width, so 2x. But it's 5 less than twice its width, so tack on the 5 less at the end. So the length is 2x minus 5. Write an equation about the perimeter of the playground. Well, equation for or formula for a perimeter of a rectangle is 2L plus 2W equals P. So 2 times the length we said is 2x minus 5. Plus 2 times the width we said is x equals the entire perimeter of the place is 197. So there's one equation. And actually that equation, what I did was I already substituted in what the length is. I think they want me to show a system. So let me fix that a little bit. We're going to ultimately end up there anyway, but it says to write an equation relating the length and the width, which we have up here anyway. So write an equation about the perimeter. I guess 2L plus 2W is P, but for us the length is Y, and the width is X, and P is 197. And write an equation relating the length and the width. I already have that here. Y is equal to 2x minus 5 could be the other equation that relates the length and the width. So they're kind of forcing me to come up with a system and then solve the system. So there is the perimeter equation, there is the equation that relates the length and the width. Now solve your system. While solving the system, I would naturally do the substitution method because the y is already isolated, so might as well go plug it in. And notice what happens when I plugged it in. I got that first equation I had written that involved both pieces already. So if it didn't force me to do a system, it would have been okay to use one variable in this case. Just stick to the x and then your length would be 2x minus 5. But the steps kind of forced us to go through it and come up with a system. So 4x minus 10 plus 2x equals 197. So we're going to solve for x, combine like terms, isolate x, and we get 34.5. I'm not done. I have to go find the y value as well. And I'm going to go back into the cloud and plug that guy in, which was 34.5. And simplifying gives me 64. But now I have to go answer what I'm supposed to answer in the word problem. It says find the dimensions of the playground. So we'll say the dimensions are, I guess, 34, I have to give units, 0.5 yards by 64 yards. So the dimensions of the playground are 34.5 by 64 yards.